talking about. Well, what I'm talking about is, I mean, it would seem that the longer we as humans exist, then the more self-aware we would become about our existence. And so in particular, what I mean when I say that we should have a better awareness of how to do life is that we should come to an understanding that each generation should be better off at doing life than the generation before. And you say, well, how is that? Well, because the longer we exist, it seems like we should come to a self-awareness at an earlier age. If people did things in a way that is natural for them to do it. So as people get older, they should reach back and teach all the lessons that they've learned to the generations behind them. I mean, as a man, if I got kids, I'm going to teach to my sons, and if the nieces and nephews are around, then I'm going to teach the same lessons to them. And when you got all the adults, when you got the grandfathers doing that to the fathers, and the fathers doing that to the kids, and elders doing that to the youth that they interact with, then you see how that builds, that knowledge, wisdom builds at an earlier age. And therefore, you also come to an understanding that the way by a person gaining that knowledge and wisdom, it's automatic that you also come to an understanding that there's a huge difference in the way I behave when I pay attention to how what I do impacts another person, as opposed to thinking in a way in which I do all things to solely benefit me, or with me as the primary beneficiary at all costs. You see what I'm saying? Those are two totally different thought processes. And as a person gains knowledge and wisdom, you come to understand that when you act in a way and do things in a way, the same thing. When you think in a way that causes you to act out trying to do things, putting yourself first, you really are hurting yourself in the big picture of things, and you're not achieving you may be superficially achieving what it is you desire, catering to yourself, your own needs, your own self-interest. You might be doing that at the superficial level, but when you look at the big picture, you can't build strong relationships when that's how you think about dealing with other people. So when you're talking about longevity, when you talk about when you talk about long-term and big picture, the people that you interact with, you never truly build relationship with them because of the way that you think. And your objective is to get over, to use and abuse, whatever. On the opposite end of the spectrum, if you did things totally different and you understood the fact that it's much more that you should deal with people in a way that you are a positive influence in their lives, then you have the exact opposite result. When you are a positive part of the people's lives that you deal with, then you build relationships. You are someone they wish to deal with. Not today, but tomorrow and the next and the next. You see what I'm saying? So now all of a sudden, instead of you trying to beat somebody on top of the head to get what you want out of life, you are working with a team of like-minded people who are all trying to excel in life, and you can work together and everybody can rise. And when everybody is moving ahead in life, then you eliminate a lot of the hate. You eliminate a lot of the cutthroat. You eliminate a lot of the shadiness. You eliminate a lot of the evilness that goes on. There's still competition, but there's strategy. There's friendly competition. There's more creativity in order. There's actually more creativity than there is competition. The competition is more about competing to, maybe be the first to develop this, that, the other, or come up with ideas, but you don't go and just produce the same 20 widgets, start a company to do the same thing as 20 other companies, you know what I mean? You are more creative. Your whole thought process is behind bringing something fruitful to the table. And so even if you go and do something that's already being done, then your objective, the reason you're going to do it is because you can provide a better value, a better service, a better product, higher quality. And if you can do that, then you deserve. You're going to dominate the competition, and you deserve to. And the person that can't measure up to that, they're going to use creativity instead of evilness to put you out of business. They're going to use creativity to reform their business or go into another completely different direction. You see what I mean? So, but all of this comes to the foundation of the thought process being one centered around positive thought, followed with positive action, as opposed to a bunch of negativity. And you see what I mean is that if we became self-aware at an earlier age and gained that knowledge and wisdom in which we thought that way, taught that type of thing to our youth, then what I just spoke of, which is right now is a fantasy, would become more of a reality. And what happens when most of the people are operating that way as opposed to the other way? Much better place in which to live, much better earth in which to exist. You see what I'm talking about? Now, we wasn't supposed to go into all of that. Okay, back to the ladies. Relationships, baby. Relationships. You got to, again, look at the big picture. When you look at the big picture, you look around, what do you see? In entertainment, you see that there is not high regard for relationships, not even marriage. You got shows that